Good morning. My name is Richard Wexler, and this is Caring in America, the podcast for caregivers and care recipients. This morning, we're going to have a little special session where Steph Viral is with us, and I know Steph has a few questions for me, so I will turn it over to Steph and go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, good morning, Richard. We are going to be diving into our session for next week. So October 14th, next Tuesday, we have our national conversation on aging and care. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, as you said, on October 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom, and I know we'll probably put this link on the podcast episode, and the link is on our website, A Plan to Age. Remember, folks, that's the number two, aplantoage.org. We're going to be talking about over 10 different ways to pay for care.
And why is it so important for folks to understand the cost of care?
Wow. I mean, in all the years I've been doing this, I would say that's probably the biggest issue, that it's expensive. And most people that I've talked to, stood in front of, worked with over the last 20 years, express the feeling that they or loved ones in their life want to stay at home. And I understand that. I mean, you don't want to get uprooted, you don't want to move someplace. Maybe you've been in that home for 10, 15, 20 years, or even a lot longer. But, and we've talked about this on the podcast, I mean, the average cost for care in the home, if you bring in a professional from a large in-home care company, or maybe from a local in-home care company in your community, you're looking at about $40 an hour. And if you happen to live in, or mom or dad does, or whoever's getting the care, live in a larger city across the country, Chicago, Dallas, San Francisco, New York, you're probably looking at about $50 an hour. That's a lot. And so think about a situation where maybe the adult kids have moved far away from mom, dad, where they grew up. And mom or dad, whoever needs that care, wants to stay in the home, but the amount of care that they need is round the clock. We're talking 24 hours. So when you do the math at $40 an hour, and I hope you folks are sitting down, this is an unbelievable number. You're talking over approximately $29,000 a month. You heard me right. About $29,000 a month. And I'm not aware of many people in this country that have those kind of funds for care. So let's say mom or dad is agreeable to move to a beautiful assisted living. The average cost there just to rent the room, and then normally you have to add levels of care on top of that rent, but that average cost around the country is about $5,000 a month. So, Steph, is as we talk to our audience and try to educate people, it's really expensive.
That is extremely expensive. I can't even fathom paying that amount. Do you think that most people in your experience understand what that actually feels like or looks like?
No, because, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but most people don't really, let me back up. They've never really thought about care. I understand this in my own life with my wife, and we wind up taking care of all four of our parents. And you guys have heard me talk about this a lot for 14 years. we didn't know any of that information going in. I mean, you have a life, it's a busy life. You probably have a job, you may have kids, you're paying a mortgage, you're paying a rent, you're paying rent, you're just having experiencing everyday life, and you're not thinking about, nor have you been educated about care, its options, and or its cost.
Do you think that most people know all the different options for care? And if you want to talk a little bit about what those are?
Sure, and unfortunately, again, most people don't. As we just talked about, most people usually want care in the home. And so you do have a few options. You can go and talk to a large in-home care company, and there's a lot of them like Senior Helpers around the country. You can talk to a local in-home care company that may have been started from some local folks in your neighborhood, in your community. There's also, and I don't always recommend this, and there are things you need to do within the structure of your home. A lot of people will talk to someone in their church, maybe find what I call Mary off the street. And Mary, lovely, usually a lady, lovely lady that can come in, take care of mom, dad, etc. The one thing, she's not bonded, she doesn't have insurance. You really want to make sure if you bring someone like that in, you make some adjustments to your homeowner's policy in case something were to happen to her. She simply tripped. Also, the situation, unlike a local in-home care or a national company, car doesn't start, she gets ill, she probably can't show up, and what's going to happen to mom or dad. And then we also talked about moving. So there's some beautiful assisted livings out there. And again, mom or dad have to be agreeable. That can sometimes be a tough conversation. Or if they're in a situation with advanced dementia, Alzheimer's, potentially moving to a memory care community that's even more expensive than an assisted living.
And I know you've mentioned before a word called like board and care. Can you talk a little bit about what that would be? Is that another option for care?
Is that board and care you said?
The board and care.
Yeah, sure. I know in California, for example, a board and care, I hate the term, it almost sounds like something where you put an animal. But these are small residential assisted livings that are single family homes that can be in a neighborhood, in any community. It's a property that someone has bought. They've usually made some changes, some upgrades to that home. It's usually licensed for 6 beds. As I said, there are thousands in California. There's a few others around the country. There needs to be more because one of the biggest issues that we're working on is how we're going to house over 100 million people that are over 50 in this country. And we're going to need a lot more single family homes that have been converted into these little assisted livings around the country. And about the only way you're going to spot these when you're driving down the street is the fact that there may be a ramp out the front door for access with a wheelchair. But one nice thing is, as well, I was actually just in one a couple days ago. They can be beautiful. They have 24-hour staff there taking care of the individuals. The individual that I was talking to was quite happy with the location he was in. Um, Usually the food is great, and they can be extremely advantageous for a lot of people. And as I said, with all these people in this country to house, it's something that we need to have. We need to have a lot more board and cares and something similar around the country.
That makes sense. Definitely have to find some creative solutions to be able to house everyone that is going to and to care for everyone that's going to need that in the next few years. As far as paying for that care, how many different ways are there to pay?
You know, and I tell people instead of sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I'm on the internet looking for these crazy ways to pay for care. So that can be a good thing and a bad thing. But I found around 13 different ways where you can figure out how you pay for care. We're going to have we're going to present all these different ways on the Zoom call on the 14th. You know, most people think, well, it's probably going to come out of their pocket. Correct. That's one way. We'll talk about that. A lot of people think that their medical insurance will pay for long-term care like this. It usually won't. So we're going to have guest speakers with us, quite a few experts on the call on the 14th. It's an hour and a half call, 90 minutes. And we're going to walk through all these different ways that you can pay for care. You know, when I tell people, if you're in the senior care industry, if you touch the senior care industry, or you're simply alive, you really need to understand this, especially if you have older loved ones. You need to understand if something happens to them, as we talked about, where are the options? Where can they be provided care? And then this huge issue, how do I pay for that care? And we're going to address all of this on the 14th.
That's wonderful. What is your hope that people learn from this meeting next week?
You know, kind of what I just said, that they have a better understanding that if something happens to mom, something happens to dad, grandparents, and they get that text, they get that phone call, maybe mom's in the ER, they think she broke something, it's probably her hip. First of all, people need to understand something as simple as a broken hip isn't going to mend, and she's not going to be better in a week. This can take months or longer, and you have to understand that. And after mom goes through a stay in the hospital for a broken hip, probably surgery, probably off to skilled nursing, then she's off someplace else. And the question is where? And part of that answer to that question is, how is it going to be paid for? And that's what I'm hoping they learn, because reality, folks, if you can't afford the care in the home and you can't afford moving mom to an assisted living, if she's open to that, and you're a loving family, like most people in this country, that is going to fall on you or a brother or a sister. That how are you, when you've moved far away from mom and dad, going to wind up taking care of them? Are you literally going to have to leave your husband, your wife, your partner, your children, your job? And I'm trying to be honest with people, and for a lot of us, that's what's going to happen. So understanding this and understanding all these ways to pay, and understanding that not just saving for retirement, we need to be saving for this small letter word called care. Because I also tell people, and this has already happened in my life, 95% of us are going to be both a caregiver and a care recipient. Think about that. Anything else, Steph?
I think you've answered all the questions I had.
Wow. So folks, join us on the 14th. Join us at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll put the link for Zoom on this podcast episode. It's also on our website, aplan2age.org. And once again, a reminder, that is the number 2. Until we talk again, have a great day. Bye-bye.